Welcome to Be Your Soul. I'm your host, Sky Bradshaw, and today we're exploring the wisdom that exists both within us and all around us. In a world filled with advice, information, and endless opinions about what we should do, it can be easy to lose sight of our greatest resources, our ability to listen to ourselves. In this episode, The Wisdom Within, Healing Through Nature, Nourishment, and Self-Trust, we will talk with the Naija Goddess about the relationship between the body's innate intelligence, the nourishment we receive from nature, and the role self-trust plays in our healing and growth. Together, we'll explore what it means to slow down, listen more deeply, and reconnect with the signals, insights, and wisdoms that are already available to us. Whether you're navigating a season of healing, seeking greater balance, or simply looking for a deeper connection with yourself, I invite you to settle in, take a breath, and join us for today's conversation. Before we dive into the Unclouded Heart segment for spiritual messages of wisdom, let's invite ourselves to become present in this moment within our body, mind, and energy. Take a moment to invite yourself to take some deep and cleansing breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And as you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, invite your mind, body, and energy to relax, 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 relax. Relax, 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 relax. And as we move into this space of complete relaxation, we open up our energies to the ancestors, loved ones, and friends to come together today to heal and guide us and lift us to the highest version of ourselves in the light of the universe, so we may hear what we need to hear, know what we need to know, connect how we need to connect, and be what we need to be for our highest and best good and the highest and best good of all involved, as we open up space to give and receive. We live in a world overflowing with information. Every day, we're presented with advice, opinions, systems, formulas, and experts telling us what we should do, how we should heal, and what path we should take. Information has never been more accessible than it is today. Yet, for many people, clarity feels harder to find than ever. Part of the reason is that information and wisdom are not the same thing. Information can be gathered from books, teachers, podcasts, social media, classes, and courses. Wisdom, however, is something different. Wisdom is what happens when information is integrated through lived experience, reflection, and connection. It is what emerges when knowledge meets self-awareness. Information can tell us what someone else knows. Wisdom helps us discover what is true for us. Somewhere along the way, many of us learned to trust external sources more than our own inner knowing. We became so focused on seeking answers outside ourselves that we forgot to listen to the wisdom that has been developing within us all along. This doesn't mean that teachers, mentors, doctors, practitioners, or experts are not valuable. They absolutely are. The challenge arises when we begin outsourcing our relationship with ourselves. When we stop listening to our own experience in favor of what someone else says we should be experiencing. The truth is that your body is constantly communicating with you. Your emotions are communicating with you. Your energy is communicating with you. The question is rarely whether communication is happening. The question is whether we have created enough space to listen. So often we separate ourselves into categories, We focus on physical health, emotional well-being, mental health, or spiritual growth as though they exist independently from one another. But our lived experience isn't divided that way. When we are exhausted emotionally, our physical body often feels it. When our physical body is depleted, our thoughts and energy are impacted. When we feel disconnected spiritually, it can influence the way we move through every aspect of our life. Each part of us is in relationship with the others. One of the things I often teach is that healing is not about fixing something that is broken. More often, it's about restoring communication. It is about rebuilding the relationship between ourselves and the wisdom that is already present. Nature offers us countless examples of this. A seed does not force itself to grow before it's ready. A tree does not compare its timeline to the tree beside it. The seasons do not argue with their purpose. Nature moves through cycles of growth, rest, nourishment, release, and renewal. And as much as we sometimes forget it, we are part of nature, not separate from it. When we begin paying attention to our own cycles, our own needs, and our own signals, something shifts. We stop chasing every answer outside of ourselves and begin cultivating a deeper relationship with our own wisdom. This is where self-trust begins. Not because we suddenly know everything, not because we stop seeking guidance, but because we learn to listen. We learn to notice. We learn to trust that our experiences have value. We learn to recognize that wisdom is not something we acquire. It is something we uncover. The Haitian proverb says, "Spirit says, meet me halfway and I'll see you there." There's a beautiful lesson in that. We do not need all the answers before we begin. We simply need a willingness to participate in our own healing, to listen, to observe, to take one step towards ourselves. Because healing is rarely about becoming someone new. More often, it is about remembering who we are. And when we learn to trust the wisdom within, we discover that much of what we have been seeking has been quietly waiting for us all along.
The Be Your Soul Substack, created by Sky Bradshaw, is a space where the conversations from the podcast continue through thoughtful writings, spiritual insights, and soul-centered reflections. Many of the posts and offerings are freely available, so you can explore, read, and stay connected at your own pace. For those who wish to go deeper, paid subscribers receive early access to podcast episodes 2 days before release, unedited interview videos, and access to master-level classroom materials that expand on the teachings shared through the show. If the podcast supports you and you'd like to follow the ongoing reflections or help sustain the work behind it, this is a beautiful place to connect. Visit skybradshaw.substack.com to explore and subscribe.
Today's guest is Inni the Naija Goddess. Inni is a board-certified holistic nutritionist, certified herbalist, doctoral candidate in functional medicine, author, chef, educator, and founder of the Naija Goddess Health and Wellness Clinic. After being told that several chronic health conditions, including PCOS, hyperthyroidism, prediabetes, and thyroids, were incurable and would require lifelong medication, Inni began exploring a different path. Through whole food nutrition, herbal support, and a deeper understanding of the body's innate capacity for healing, she transformed her own health and discovered a passion for helping others do the same. Today, through her clinical practice, educational platforms, podcast, and her book, Nourished by Naija, Inni empowers others to look beyond symptom management and explore the root causes of imbalance. Her work blends functional medicine principles with practical, accessible approaches to wellness, helping people reconnect with the wisdom of their bodies and make informed choices that support lasting health and well-being. So, welcome to the show. I'm so grateful to have you. And I know we had a little conversation, just you and I, a few weeks ago, and I was so inspired by it and really happy that you said yes to come on and talk to us today.
Thank you for having me here. It's a true honor. I have the utmost respect for you. So I'm truly honored and privileged to be here. So thank you, Sky.
Thank you. So, we're going to talk about the wisdom inside, how we already have an innate understanding of what our body needs, what our emotional body needs, what our energy body needs. But oftentimes we get really distracted by the doing things instead of the being in those spaces. And it can take us out or away from that wisdom. And we kind of forget it through the distractions of being a human on the planet and trying to live a human life. And oftentimes we separate like physical health, emotional well being, and spiritual growth. We don't see it as, the wholeness of who we are, that trilogy body. But our lived experience, like how we are present in the world, isn't divided like that. We're not, you know, only emotionally experiencing something. We are physically experiencing it as well as energetically experiencing it. So, through your work with nutrition, holistic wellness, herbal connections, what have you learned about that connection of the trilogy bodies? And how do you help people understand they are a whole self, not just a physical self or an emotional self or an energetic self?
Yeah, it's so important. I think the separation is more of a Western construct. Everything is put into categories and boxes, and our bodies are just, they don't work like that. People go and see a heart doctor, and they see a brain doctor, and they see a liver doctor, and they see a kidney doctor, and then those doctors are not talking to one another. The body doesn't work like that. And the body is one whole mechanism. And outside of like not learning like personal finance in school, you also don't learn how your body actually is designed to work and how it's naturally designed to heal itself. And a lot of the interventions that we have today really aren't needed, but because we have a over dependence on the medical construct and a lack of knowledge of the world and plant knowledge and how our own bodies work, we've fallen into the society we've fallen into today, particularly in the Western Hemisphere. So this is what I see every day in clinic and practice and in school as well, that people just have this dissociative thing like, I have this pain, I need this pill. I have this thing, I need a surgery, and just are completely separate from what is actually going on internally, how they actually feel. Because at the end of the day, you know your body the best, and your body is constantly communicating with you. And we have lost the art of understanding that language that is using to communicate with us. We're always trying to suppress and silence what is trying to tell us. And so it's turned into symptom suppression management versus true root cause healing. So that's what I deal with every day. And that's the work that I try to undo and do this great unlearning, because it's like we have all this medicine around us in the world and what's grown, and we have an innate beautifully made body that knows how to heal itself. Start listening to that. And to go on from that, I learned this firsthand because for most of my life, I've been so sick. I was almost 400 pounds, had PCOS, diabetes, high cholesterol, hypothyroidism, on and on and on and on and on. And I was told that most of my conditions would be permanent and that I would need a pill for the rest of my life. And oh, by the way, at 35, you can have a hysterectomy too, right? And so finding this out in my early 20s, I'm like, what am I supposed to do for the next 15 years? Okay, suffer. And so I just managed, right? I had absolutely no energy whatsoever. And when I happened to change my diet and happened to learn about plant medicines and just started doing it just because I thought it would give me energy. I didn't think it was going to heal anything, because I was already told, hey, you need surgery. This is going to be for the rest of your life and all this stuff. And then when everything I said completely went away and weight just magically went away, it wasn't like I was just working out and stuff like that. I said, hold up now. I have suffered needlessly for too long. And if I didn't know this, then so many other people are suffering needlessly. And let me dig into this. And that's why I took the path to go to school, And so I can make a deeper, more impactful reach to people to say, hey, you can really change from the inside out and address the root.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I said a whole lot there, but
No, and it's all true. And the key is like it's really easy to get distracted by the leaves rustling and try and get them to stop, but if we can get into those root-based spaces, then it does create foundational transformation. And it
absolutely.
does address, especially when you're using nature to nurture in those spaces, because there is a component of the whole, the trilogy body. When I take in a natural source to try and help a symptom or even to get to the root cause,
Yeah,
it has a different energetic impact. Like chewing on a piece of ginger and taking a Tylenol are going to be two totally different energetic impacts. It's
absolutely.
also two totally different emotional connections with those things. The vibrations are different. And, I think I'm an and, not an or person. So there might be a time where that is necessary, but and also do the work of getting into the root base of it and recognizing what that is. So I think it's beautiful. The work you're doing is beautiful.
Well, thank you. And just like you said, I'm not going to say there's not a place for our current pharmaceutical industry. It's not. If I fall off a tree and break my leg, yes, take me to the hospital. Okay, yes,
Mm-hmm.
give me that stuff right. But in terms of wellness and healing, that is not what this system is designed for. Emergent care, emergency care, acute care in the short term to stop bleeding, to make sure that you live. Absolutely, do all the things. But the system from the ground up it's made for profit. It's better to say, take this pill for the rest of your life than to heal you and never need you to come back.
Right.
So it's unfortunate from that perspective. And that's why it's so important. If you're not willing to take the time on your own to learn, then get with someone who has taken that journey to help guide you, because understanding how your body is designed to work and how everything talks to one another. And like you said, everything vibrates at a different level. There's different energies, different things, especially when you're taking herbs, even when you're eating a meal, and how you started this podcast with the breath work is, box breathing and all that is so important because it really does do something within the body. And a lot of people just dismiss it for frou-frou, woo woo stuff. It's like, just give me the pill, give me the surgery. And I'm just saying, I'm not saying not to do that. I'm just saying that doesn't have to be step one. It does not have to be step one.
That's true. Both can complement each other. And one, wellness will get you a lot further than constantly
Yes.
fixing.
Yes. And I can't even call it fixing. In my classes, I tend to say it's putting a band-aid over a bullet wound. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just minimizing the stress that's happening, the immediate issue that's happening, but it's not still addressing the root cause. So if you're really bleeding out, but you're just putting something over to stop so you don't completely bleed out immediately, you're still not addressing the root cause. And ultimately, you still can just bleed out just very slowly and painfully, right? So fixing something so that you can just reset and then get an actual healing or wellness plan together are two, like, it's two different things, but everything has been lumped into, like you just said, the fixing bucket, and it's not fixing anything, but people have the perception that it's fixed. So I think the model is set up for we make far more money and have lifelong customers if we can say, take this pill for the rest of your life versus let's actually fix you, heal you, and then you don't need to come back to me. And then you've learned another skill. So if this were to happen again, you're able to do it yourself. Well, then the whole medical conglomerate, where would that be? So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's an unfortunate downside that this has been made for profit versus people's true healing.
Mm-hmm. And it's a fast fix mentality. Like we want the symptom to go away because humans just have that tendency. Like we want out of uncomfortableness. And the uncomfortableness, the symptom is actually a messenger. It is, trying to give us an understanding. It's what that conversation our body is trying to have, or our emotions are trying to have, or our energy is trying to have. It's saying, hey, pay attention here. And if
Yes.
we're like, shh, shh, no, you can't talk, like, then that's not That's not encompassing wholeness in any way, shape, or form.
And just like to put like a analogy around it or a picture around it, like the common cold or the flu, people immediately want to take a cough suppressant. They want to get rid of the fever. The fever is there to help you. Your temperature going up is there to help you and kill those things off. And also, when you have pain, the pain is there so your immune system knows where the pain is, so it can go there, right? But if you're constantly silencing the alarms that your body has made to protect you, then when it fails, then you're like, oh, my body's just failing me. But our bodies, the main message, our bodies are not broken. They are communicating, and we just have to learn the language. So I'm so glad you said that, Sky.
Absolutely. So a lot of times the other thing that happens in every industry, whether it's Western medicine or even wellness industry, there's no shortage of advice. People are constantly saying, do this, do that, here's the right way. And how do you help people recognize, like you said, like nobody knows you better than you know you? And so while we can take that information and we can, recognize I'm going to keep this because it works and I'm going to let go of that because it doesn't, like, what's your best guidance for people when it comes to that discernment, that inner wisdom discernment?
That's a fantastic question. What I've witnessed in my clinic, it has been a case by case basis because some people are tuned in with themselves and some people are so disconnected, like in another galaxy almost, right? Where they're so disconnected and they're so scared to trust themselves that they can't initially trust themselves because they're still wanting to Google everything and just freaking out, right? So it depends on what stage of the unlearning process the person is in. So that is step one. Assuming that they're okay and they're open and they're receptive, it's like, okay, when you say your stomach felt bad, okay, what did you eat earlier? What did you do earlier? Did you have an argument with somebody, or did you eat something that's been sitting in the refrigerator for too long, or what other things happen so you can start to put the pieces together, right? Because sometimes it's not just physical; it's a lot of times it's emotional, spiritual, right? And all those things play a part. And taking that in the totality of what you're consuming in terms of food, which is where I kind of focus on, it still matters, right? So I always say if you're in an emotional state, you shouldn't be eating or drinking. Like you need to abstain from that. Don't put bad energy in the food that's supposed to nourish your body, right? So it's things like that. So give them those little tidbits on where they are in life and explain it to them like that, and then just being observant.
So I definitely agree. Self-trust is a major component when it comes to people tuning in to their body and supporting not just with knowledge and information, that concept of like, how did you process, how did you cook that food? How did you eat that food? Where did the food come from? Where were you when, what was going on in your life? Trust is built through awareness. It's built through attentiveness. It's built through consistent and persistent connection. And so those things, a lot of times people eat mindlessly. They don't put a passion or an energy into it. And when we can tune back into that, like being present in your body and being aware, then it's easier to understand the conversations that the body's wisdom's having.
Yes, and doing the small things compound over time. So being attention when you sit down and have a meal, like you should be eating and driving. You shouldn't be, rushing. Like when you sit down, when you eat, you should be ready to eat, and you shouldn't be eating and drinking at the same time. They are two separate functions. You don't want to dilute your digestive enzymes with water and then eat something, especially if you're eating something that's not super healthy and you need that digestive fire to break things down. You should not be emotionally, overly excited or overly depressed, in trying to consume food. Like all of that matters energetically in terms of how it's going to sit well with your body or not. So those little things really do add up and really do matter and compound. And chewing your food thoroughly, like don't be such a rush to swallow. Your food technically should be a liquid before you swallow, right? But people just scoffing down the food, right? And it's like a bare minimum 15 times chew. 30 would be so much better, but a bare minimum chew 15 times before you swallow. And I've seen so many times in real life that people just like, oh my God, I didn't realize I was swallowing at 7, You know, I have all these big hunks of food, and I'm like, yeah, your body's having to work harder and harder, especially as you get older and your digestive fire starts to slow down. It's so important to do these things that seem minuscule, seem insignificant, but they have a huge impact on your health, your ability, your ability to absorb the nutrients, and how you're going to feel the heaviness or the not heaviness that you can feel when you do these things or not do these things. So all that stuff really does make a difference. So it doesn't, you don't have to do an about face and do a whole 180 degrees. You can do things a little at a time and you'll eventually still get there.
Yeah, that's what, and that's how I think foundations are shifted. A
Mm.
lot of times, whenever we're making those huge changes, they're not sustainable for one. They don't feel authentic because it's so different from where we were.
Yeah.
And it is those leaves, we're chopping off a branch instead of going like, oh, well, paying attention to how many times I chew my food. Like, I can do that for free like that.
Yeah.
I can. And if you create that consistent, persistent practice and it becomes habit to do it, then you're not working hard at it. It just is part of the change. And so a lot of things I think we overlook because of the simplicities of them, but really the simplicity is the foundation of all things.
So right. And it made this pop in my head, Sky, that everything we need is free. Everything that we truly need to sustain and be healthy on the inside and the outside is free. And then when it comes to like big pharma and all that, and this is not the anti-pharma campaign I'm trying to run here. I'm just saying you can't patent God, you can't patent life. So they take what is naturally grown on the earth and they add one molecule or something to it, and then it's patentable. But the thing that was originally there that doesn't have the adverse reactions that make sure it works with the synergy of the human body is good. And then we come and play with it so that we can patent and make money off of it and then get adverse reactions to it and other contraindications when you mix it with other pharmacological drugs. So that's why it's like just take a beat and just you have so much medicine to grow in your backyard. I'm sure people have dandelion at a minimum, and nettle growing abundantly in their backyards, right? Just out of just the small stuff, purslane, and there's so much back there, right? That you don't have to take the pharmaceuticals first, right? And if you're doing these small things, just introducing one thing at a time, even just drinking some tea, herbal tea that's not laden with sugar and all this stuff, right? Just drinking some natural teas, you will feel the difference. And then it can become a ritual or routine. And you'll feel the difference. And that's actual true health. That's actual a life of wellness. You don't have to be a
Absolutely.
practitioner to do it. These little things matter. And people were doing this for so many millennia before us, right? And now everything has to be evidence-based. And now I believe in evidence-based, but a lot of stuff, they're just now catching up to things that we've known for thousands of years, or at least hundreds of years, right? The science is just now starting to prove it. So anecdotal evidence and nutrition science, I use them together because they're both valuable.
And it's also just, pointing out an obvious statement. It's, research is what's researched. And so if the focus is on Western medicine research, there has to be a research study on herbal tea in order for us to have the evidence-based backing of it. And so, that's kind of where the juxflex comes in a lot of times, is because certain things just haven't had the scientific time spent on them, but they have, like you said, millennial of passed down tradition time
that has worked.
Exactly. For sure. So is there anything else that you think would be a nugget, anything else that we didn't cover that might inspire someone to kind of turn inward to that wisdom and build that trust within themselves and understand that they are co-creating their wellness with not only nature, but with, the tools and resources?
I love that. And I love how you said co-creating. That's like an underscore that the audience should take away. Yeah. What comes to mind based on the context of our conversation is stop outsourcing your symptoms. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Many people will describe their symptoms to their doctor or a trusted healthcare person, and they're waiting to be told what's wrong with them. And You have been living with your body your entire life. Yeah. So you know when something's off, and you know what you did before you didn't feel well when you did feel well. And the trust part, which we already discussed. So I would say, like, pay attention to that. Like you said, the self-trust factor is so important. Stop waiting to be told what's wrong with you. You actually already know. Your body already knows. And if you're going to a strictly allopathic model, the bell curve, so they'll go, you don't feel your best, but you'll go and get blood work done, and it's all green, right? So then it's like, you're fine, but you know innately you're not fine, right? Then you go back the next year, this is in yellow, this is in red, right? So what has happened? Because you already weren't feeling fine a year ago, and now today you're feeling even worse. So that bell curve changes about every 5 to 10 years because it's based off the sick people that are there, and are averaging it out as a bell curve distribution, right? It's not based off of a healthy model in an optimized way. Furthermore, all of the standards are based off a white male body at the age around 35. And so women are just completely left off the table because we have cycles, right? And so when you're trying to do a test, a clinical trial, we don't have time for all your periods and things. We don't have time for your hormones to change, right? We're going to use a man because they're on a 24-hour cycle and it's consistent, and we can have consistent results. And they just say, okay, wherever the man's is, we'll just lessen it for a woman because women are just small men. And there you go. So if people don't understand that, they'll have a false sense that I'm fine. And then it's like, bam, you got the cancer. Bam, you got this. Bam, you got that. When this had been brewing all along, had you had a different type of healthcare person on your team. So I would advise people to stop outsourcing their symptoms, have a broadened healthcare team, have someone from functional medicine, have someone from like integrative medicine, someone who's going to be looking at the whole picture, and someone's going to be looking at your blood work based on an optimized, healthy body for your gender, for your space in life. So if you're a woman, if you're in your childbearing years, or if you're in perimenopause, menopause years, that is so critically important because you can catch things a lot earlier if you know, hey, for the optimized body, you're way out of alignment, even though allopathically you're fine, right? So we need to work on that. So you can catch thyroid disease so early like that and feel like, oh, this is why I'm not having it. It's not just getting older, right? So those are things I always like to impress upon people. Always get another opinion. Make sure you have a well-rounded healthcare team and trust what your body is telling you. You feel like something's off, something is off. Okay. No matter what the lab work says and who's interpreting it for you. Okay.
Right.
Trust that and find someone who's going to help you feel your absolute best, because we all deserve that. And I went 2 decades feeling miserable for no reason because I didn't know this information. I didn't have that. I didn't know that I had access to the tools and the people that I do now. So don't suffer in silence. It's not, you don't have to do that. You can live your amazing life, and life should be getting better as we get older, not the other way around.
Yep. And I always remind people, like, we have this like almost opposite thought process of like the test determines the truth. And the test does not determine that in any way, shape, or form. It should reveal it. It tells us what was already true before we took the test. And so we shouldn't be matching our truth to the test.
Hello.
We should be allowing our truth to be revealed through the testing. And so, that's always something that baffled me when we think about like, I just got this test and now this. I'm like, no, that was before that. And the test just showed you that. It gave you a clue. It's just part of the communication that you filter into your inner wisdom and understand whether it feels right or not right to you, and what do you do with it.
Nail on the head. Absolutely.
So I ask every guest 3 questions.
Okay.
And so the first one is, what do you think it means to be your soul?
I thought about this. It's operating from the truest form of yourself. And not doing that for so long, it's so important to me to do that now. And to speak to that consistently now, especially for those who don't feel strong enough or feel too scared to do so. We get one shot in this form of life. We need to make the best of it and feel our best. So you have to be true to the truest version of yourself and be consistent about that. That's what really comes to mind. It doesn't mean you don't have things you're still working out, but wherever you are in this space and time right now, be that 100%.
I love that. So, what's one self-care thing that you do to help fuel your energy?
Yeah, the thing I do without fail, Sky, okay, and I would encourage your listeners the same. Hydration. Okay. Hydration, we are chronically in this Western hemisphere, we are chronically dehydrated. Half the time you're hungry, you're actually just thirsty, right? But just in general, people do not consume enough liquids. And I'm not talking about all the beverages. I'm talking about actual herbal teas, like they're unsweetened or very lightly naturally sweetened, and water, infused water preferably, because it's a lot more stable and a lot more, it goes intracellular and you become actually truly intracellularly hydrated. But the first thing I do before I put my feet on the ground in the morning, I put water in a copper cup that's at my nightstand. And so before I even get on the floor to go to the bathroom, I drink a cup of water. First thing, it gently wakes up your body. It gently wakes up your organs. It's like, okay, it's time to get things moving. Hydration is the most important thing. And if you're properly hydrated, your skin will become pretty, your hair will grow like crazy, you'll have natural energy, your cravings will go down. So hydration is something that I do no matter if all else fails, if I forgot my herbs and I'm gone somewhere, I'm going to hydrate. Yeah.
I'm going to make hydration my focus for the next week. Like, am I really doing it? And what does feeling centered and balanced look like in your life?
When I'm centered and balanced, I'm not rushing. And it doesn't mean I'm still not moving fast or anything like that, but I can move fast and still be grounded. It's an internal knowing that I'm not rushing. Everything is fine and well the way it is. Whatever time or place I show up is when I'm supposed to be there, and being completely okay with that. When I'm in that space, that's when I know I'm centered and balanced. But when I've been in spaces where I don't feel that grounded nature, that I know I'm not in balance. I know things are helter skelter and I need to, balance the seesaw a bit, so that I don't feel that. So that way, whether I'm moving fast or not, I feel internally that I am still grounded and not having that sense of anxiety or rushing about me. So I think that's it.
Awesome. Thank you. So give our listeners, like, how do they find you? And I think that you are going to give also a special offering to people.
Yes. So my general website is thenaijagoddess.com, which is the THE Naija NAIJA Goddess GODDESS.com. And then it's the Naija Goddess on all platforms. But I've written a book and I have a program coming out. And to get your feet wet, if you want to do like a 3-day reset so that you can feel really good and energized, you can go to nourishbynaija.com, which is the name of my book, and you can get a free 3-day reset, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And the big thing about this is not just 3 recipes, because I specialize in food prep methodology so that people can fit health for their lifestyle and for their health goals. You can see, like, how do you prep the food? How do you keep the food? How can you remix the food? Because you have some people that can eat the same thing every single day. And some people like, look, I had that yesterday. I had that for breakfast. I can't do that again, right? So how do you remix the same ingredients you prepared? And how do you store them properly? So that way it always feels new and exciting, but the work was only done one time. So learning how to get into that is what that 3-day reset does. So you can and if you're on Instagram, you can just DM Nourish and it'll come right to you. Or you can go to the website is www.nourish, NOURISH Naija NAIJA.com. Download it for free.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. This was such a great conversation, and I just feel like filled and fulfilled by what we talked about. And I've got a lot of little notes I'm going to think about as I move forward. So thank you.
No, thank you for the opportunity. I'm grateful, truly grateful.
Thank you, dear listener, for being here, for choosing presence, for listening with openness, and for allowing this conversation to meet you wherever you are on your path. We know you have many places you could spend your time, and we're truly grateful you chose to share this moment with us. A heartfelt thank you to Innie for sharing your wisdom, experience, and passion for helping others reconnect with the body's innate capacity for healing. Your willingness to share both your personal journey and your professional insights is a powerful reminder that healing is not always about finding something outside of ourselves, but often about learning to listen more deeply to the wisdom that already exists within us. Your story invites us to remember that health and well-being are not built through perfection, but through awareness, intention, and a willingness to cultivate a relationship with ourselves. Through nourishment, nature, and self-trust, we are reminded that healing is not simply a destination, but an ongoing conversation, one that becomes richer when we learn to honor the signals, wisdom, and guidance available to us each day.
Ready to explore what it truly means to work with your mind, body, and energy together as an integrated system? The Be Your Soul Classroom, created by Sky Bradshaw, is an online learning space designed to support self-awareness, spiritual growth, and embodied understanding through practical, soul-centered teachings. Inside the classroom, you'll find a growing collection of online courses and offerings that explore energy awareness, intuition, personal alignment, and conscious living, each designed to meet you exactly where you are. Courses blend written lessons, video teachings, guided meditations, reflective exercises, and experiential practices, allowing you to learn in a way that feels grounded, accessible, and alive. Whether you're deepening your relationship with energy, strengthening intuition, or learning how to apply spiritual awareness to everyday life, the Be Your Soul Classroom offers both structure and spaciousness for your journey. Many courses are available on demand, so you can move at your own pace, while select offerings also include live Zoom sessions for those who enjoy learning in community and real-time connection. This is a space to return to yourself again and again, with clarity, intention, and care. Visit beyoursoul.org to explore the Be Your Soul Classroom and discover the courses that support your next season of growth.
One of the things I've noticed in both my own life and in working with others is that people often mistake being stuck for the pause that naturally occurs when we give ourselves space to integrate. We live in a world that celebrates constant motion, constant productivity, and constant doing. As a result, when things slow down or clarity doesn't arrive as quickly as we'd like, we assume something is wrong. We begin searching for the next answer, the next book, the next teacher, hoping that somewhere outside of ourselves is the missing piece that will help everything make sense. But often the pause isn't a sign that we're stuck at all. It is simply a period of calibration, a space where wisdom is settling in, perspectives are shifting, and different aspects of ourselves are finding their way into greater harmony. Growth doesn't always happen through movement. Sometimes it happens through integration. In the work I teach in Understanding Energy in Action, we explore the trilogy bodies, the spiritual self, the emotional self, and the physical self. The spiritual self connects us to purpose, meaning, and source. The emotional self holds our values, experiences, hopes, fears, and feelings. The physical self is the part of us that takes action, moves through the world, and engages with the practical realities of daily life. Each of these aspects of self is constantly communicating. Your spirit may be calling you towards growth. Your emotions may be asking for rest. Your physical body may be asking for safety. And because those messages don't always sound the same, we can begin to feel confused or uncertain about which direction to move. But these parts of ourselves are not working against one another. They are working together. Much like the wheels, axle, and tires of a car, each part serves a different function, yet all are designed to move the vehicle forward. If one part becomes worn down, disconnected, or ignored, the journey becomes more difficult. Not because the car has stopped being a car, but because the pieces are no longer working together as effectively as they could. The same is true for us. This is where integration becomes so important. When our values support our choices support our actions support our purpose, and our purpose supports the life we are creating, we begin to experience integrated wisdom. Rather than moving in different directions, the various aspects of ourselves begin working together towards a common destination. One of the gifts of this integration is magnetization. We've talked before about how we become more magnetic to the experiences, opportunities, relationships, and lessons that support our growth when we're aligned within ourselves. This doesn't mean we magically attract everything we want. Rather, it means we become more capable of recognizing what is truly meant for us and less likely to spend our energy chasing what is not. Integration also creates a clearer pathway to the intuitions. And yes, I said intuitions, plural. Each aspect of the trilogy body gathers information differently and has its own wisdom to offer. Together, they create a more complete understanding than any one aspect could provide on its own. The physical self experiences intuition through the wisdom of the body. It helps us understand safety, grounding, stability, and our immediate environment. It communicates through sensation, comfort, discomfort, tension, fatigue, and the instinct responses of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. This is the wisdom that keeps us connected to the present moment and aware of what is happening right here and right now. The emotional self experiences intuition through feeling and knowing. It gathers information from our experiences, relationships, values, and memories. It is the part of us that says, "This feels right," or "Something doesn't sit well with me." Sometimes people call it a gut feeling, but it really is the wisdom that comes from understanding ourselves, our experiences, and what holds meaning in our lives. The spiritual self experiences intuition through our connection with the energy body and source. It allows us to step back and see a larger perspective beyond the immediate moment. Through this aspect of self, we connect with inspiration, purpose, vision, and possibility. It reminds us that we are part of something greater than ourselves and helps us recognize patterns, opportunity, and meaning that may not yet be visible to the physical or emotional self alone. Often, this form of intuition is called prophecy. Whether you feel like you have access to it or not, we've all had dreams and experienced deja vu, which suggests that the ability exists within us all, even if we don't actively use it. When these three aspects of self are working together, intuition becomes less confusing. We begin to recognize what part of ourselves is speaking, what information it is offering, and how that information can support us. Rather than competing with one another, they become collaborators in our growth. And while I would normally leave you with a journaling prompt, self-reflection exercise, or guided practice, this time I'm going to invite you into something much simpler: presence. Over the next few weeks, resist the urge to immediately analyze, fix, or figure everything out. Instead, become curious. Notice what your body is communicating. Notice what your emotions are trying to tell you. Notice what keeps returning to your awareness. Give yourself permission to observe without judgment and listen without immediately needing an answer. So until we come together again for the next show, I invite you to simply observe. Over the next 21 days, pay attention to which part of yourself is trying to drive the bus. Notice which voice you tend to trust and which one you tend to dismiss. Bring awareness to how all three aspects of self work together. because awareness is often the first step towards integration. And if you find yourself struggling to hear one aspect of yourself or feeling disconnected from the conversation happening within, return to the 3 5s meditation on our YouTube. Sometimes we don't need more answers. Sometimes we simply need enough stillness to hear the wisdom that is already there. May you be well. May you feel whole. May you be blessed. May you find peace. And may you always be your soul.
Want to connect deeper with Sky and the work she offers? You can explore more at beyoursoul.org, where all of our offerings, reflections, classroom, and episodes are here to support you. Everything we create is rooted in one mission. When the one is strengthened, the sum is strengthened.